Mr. Wallberg. Mr. Wallberg, you are recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, thank you for allowing me to wave on to the subcommittee. It's an important subject, and thanks to the panel for being here. The Communist Party has a long, dark history of political suppression, persecution, and violence, and that's against their own people. I think that's what we need to make very clear. Our hearts break for the Chinese people, whether they be Uyghurs or others, whether you have organ harvesting going on, religious, political persecution. And any of us who have been to China understand a repressive sense that you have there where truth isn't honored or even allowed. Unfortunately, we've seen a rise in the CCP's influence in our education institutes, and living in the shadow of major universities like the University of Michigan, I've seen it and experienced it, and for too long didn't take it seriously myself. As we've heard today, the CCP has achieved some success in undermining and infiltrating our schools, both at the K-12 and post-secondary institutions. At the K-12 level, these Confucius classrooms act as a foothold for the CCP to disseminate propaganda, to whitewash the atrocities of past communist regimes. These classrooms are part of a broader effort to advance Chinese interests by exercising soft power on all American educational institutions. They downplay horrific Chinese human rights abuses, chill or prohibit discussion of the Tiananmen Square massacre, and suppress opposition to Chinese aggression toward Taiwan. And disturbingly, younger generations of Americans are increasingly unaware of communism abuses, like I certainly was aware as a child of the 50s and 60s, hiding under my desk in nuclear bomb training sessions from the Soviet Union, communism, and certainly CCP. 28% of Gen Z hold a favorable opinion of the term communism, compared to just 6 and 3% for baby boomers and the silent generations, respectively. Ms. Neely, last week this committee passed the crucial Communism Teaching Act, which will facilitate the development of educational resources so students can better understand the dangers of communism and totalitarianism, and how those systems are contrary to our founding principles of freedom and democracy. Former Secretary DeVos, who I was with last week, and Secretary Pompeo pushed back against the influence of Confucius Institutes in our education system during the previous administration. In your opinion, how can Congress and this administration build off the Trump administration's policies while still respecting local control? And I guess I would also ask Mr. Walters' answer to that, because I'd prefer that we not have a U.S. Department of Education, that the buck for education would stop at the greatest level at the State Department of Education. So Ms. Neely first, and then Mr. Walters.
Sure. You know, Randy Weingarten uses the phrase teaching true history, and I appreciate that your efforts to advance the cause of teaching the true history about communism, teaching the true history about what's taking place in these countries. It's something that Florida has taken the lead in, and I expect many other states to do so as well. So I think that's a very important first step. So we appreciate that. I will let Secretary Walters or Superintendent Walters talk about the state federalism issue.
You know, and Congressman, I appreciate your comments there. I agree with you. I don't think there should be a federal Department of Education. But when you look at a situation like this, it involves national security. We're talking about an issue where we've got our military personnel preparing now for potential issues with foreign countries that are this adversarial. I believe that this is of the highest order for our national security to ensure that we do not have this invasion of our schools through a foreign enemy. So I believe that this is absolutely appropriate for the federal government to step in to preserve the safety of American citizens, to ensure that we do not have a hostile foreign government utilizing propaganda in our schools.
Let me turn to you, Mr. Gonzalez, with your background in the media as well as at the executive level. How do we do this and respect local control?
And respect what?
Local control.
Well, I think, as Mr. Walter said, given the fact that we're looking at a hostile power, the federal government very definitely has a role. I believe very strongly that education belongs at the local level to the families. They're the natural sovereign of education. At least the states, the federal government should stay away most of the time. This is one area in which, because it's an issue of national security, that you can, I urge you to do what you can to ban these, to prohibit these collaborations.
Some of us ought to be looking at it. Yeah.
Thank you
I thank the gentleman.
very much. Thank you,
I
Mr.
yield back.
Wallberg.